She walked onto the set of a music video wearing a simple black dress, expecting just another audition. Within moments, the biggest pop star in the world stopped everything and pointed at her. Michael Jackson looked at the screen and reportedly said she was the one. In a single instant, Tatiana Thumbtzen's life changed forever. She went from being another talented performer chasing opportunities to standing beside the king of pop himself. But what seemed like the beginning of a dream would soon become one of the most talked about mysteries in Michael Jackson's career. And believe it or not, the truth is far more complicated than the rumors ever suggested. Long before the world knew her name, Tatiana had spent years preparing for a life in the performing arts. Born in Clearwater, Florida, she came from a mixed heritage that included Black Cherokee, Anglo-Cuban roots, and an Irish surname from her adopted father. Dance became her passion while she was still a child. At just 8 years old, she began studying ballet with remarkable dedication. By 13, she had earned a scholarship to New York City's prestigious School of American Ballet. It wasn't an easy path. The training demanded discipline, sacrifice, and endless hours of practice. But those years built the determination that would eventually place her on one of the biggest stages in the world. Still, she had no idea what fate had waiting around the corner. Or who she would unexpectedly meet. Tatiana later explained that her dance background opened the door to modeling. At 19, she signed a contract that took her to Japan, where she spent 5 years building her career. After returning to New York, she appeared in work connected to Harry Belafonte's production of Beat Street. By the end of 1986, she packed up once again and headed for Los Angeles, chasing even bigger opportunities in commercials and print modeling. It was the perfect place for someone with ambition. But before her career truly took off, something unexpected happened on the streets of New York. In 1984, while rushing to an audition, Tatiana spotted Michael Jackson walking alone in casual clothes. She recognized him instantly. Like millions of fans, she wanted to speak to him. But the words simply wouldn't come. Instead, she quietly followed him for several blocks before realizing she would be late for her own audition. She eventually turned away, never saying a single word. It was a brief encounter, yet one she would never forget. Little did she know, a few years later they would be working side by side. But how would that happen? The opportunity came in 1987 through an audition unlike any other. Tatiana wasn't even told what project she was trying out for. She performed a scene where several men harassed her character on a city street. More than 200 women competed for the same role. According to people involved with the production, after Michael watched her audition tape, he reportedly declared that she was the one while everyone else were simply extras. That decision changed everything. The project turned out to be the music video for The Way You Make Me Feel, one of the standout singles from the Bad album. Directed by Joe Pytka and inspired by the energy of West Side Story, the video placed Tatiana at the center of the story. She played the woman Michael pursued through city streets with playful confidence. Their chemistry looked incredibly natural. According to Tatiana, that wasn't entirely acting. She later claimed Michael flirted with her during filming, creating a connection that audiences could actually feel on screen. Originally, the final scene was supposed to include a kiss. But the director believed Michael was too shy and asked Tatiana not to kiss him. Instead, they ended the video with a warm embrace. That small decision seemed insignificant at the time. Yet strangely enough, it would become the beginning of a story that would later explode across headlines. But the biggest moment hadn't happened yet. When the video was released in October 1987, it became an instant success. Millions watched it around the world, and although many people didn't know Tatiana's name, they certainly recognized her face. Soon after, she found herself seeing Michael again. In January 1988, she visited him during the filming of Leave Me Alone. They even posed together for photographs. Not long afterward, she was invited to perform alongside him during the massive Bad World Tour. That wasn't just another concert series. It was the biggest solo tour anyone had ever attempted. Michael Jackson was at the peak of his fame, filling stadiums across the globe. Performing beside him meant joining one of the most celebrated live shows in history. The two also appeared together during Michael's unforgettable Grammy Awards performance on March 2, 1988. By then, Tatiana had become a familiar face around Michael's circle, and members of the Jackson family reportedly even nicknamed her Tatiana Jackson. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. Then came 2 nights in New York that changed absolutely everything. On March 3, Michael performed a benefit concert at Madison Square Garden for the United Negro College Fund. The audience included celebrities like Brooke Shields, Quincy Jones, Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Madonna, Prince, members of the Jackson family, and many more. During the performance of The Way You Make Me Feel, Tatiana decided to kiss Michael on the cheek. She later said she barely had any private time with him and simply wanted to express her affection. According to her, the dancers later told her that Michael couldn't stop smiling afterward and even giggled through parts of the show. That reaction gave her confidence. But what happened next would become one of the most controversial moments of the entire tour. The following evening, Tatiana claimed she called Michael before the show and asked if she could take the kiss one step further. According to her account, he agreed. During the performance, she walked toward him, wrapped her arms around him, looked into his eyes, and kissed him on the lips in front of thousands of screaming fans. The crowd erupted. She later admitted the rush of adrenaline was so overwhelming she almost lost her balance and fell off the stage. It looked like a magical moment. Backstage, however, the atmosphere changed completely. Tatiana expected the usual congratulations after the performance. Instead, she noticed something was terribly wrong. Michael's manager, Frank Dilio, reportedly walked past without saying a word, giving her what she later described as a chilling look. Then Miko Brando confronted her backstage with anger, apparently believing the kiss had been spontaneous. Tatiana insisted that no one except her and Michael knew they had discussed it beforehand. That misunderstanding, she believed, became the beginning of the end. But the consequences were far worse than she ever imagined. Not long afterward, Tatiana appeared on a television interview and answered questions about her relationship with Michael carefully. Even so, Frank Dilio reportedly decided to remove her from the tour. She never received a direct explanation. There was no conversation with Michael. No phone call. No chance to defend herself. She simply learned that she had been replaced. Later, Sheryl Crow stepped into the touring role during the Wembley Stadium shows. For someone who had been standing beside the biggest entertainer in the world only weeks earlier, the fall was devastating. But what hurt even more wasn't losing the job. It was losing Michael without understanding why. Tatiana later admitted she went home and cried harder than she ever had before. Michael's mother, Katherine Jackson, was also confused by what had happened. She continued inviting Tatiana to the family home in Encino, showing that not everyone close to Michael agreed with the decision. Even Michael's father, Joseph Jackson, tried to help by offering her a management contract. At first it seemed promising. Eventually, though, Tatiana realized it wasn't helping her career and may even have been holding her back. The industry also viewed her differently. Casting directors no longer saw a talented actress or dancer. They saw the woman from Michael Jackson's video. That single association followed her everywhere. Instead of opening endless doors, it often closed them. Financial struggles soon followed, making the emotional loss even harder to bear. She tried several times to reconnect with Michael at public events, but according to her memoir, someone always pulled him away before they could speak. Whether those decisions came from Michael himself or from the people around him remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the story. Years later, Tatiana openly described the depression that followed. She wrote about feeling broken after being replaced, crying constantly, avoiding people, and even reaching a point where she didn't want to leave her home. Her identity had become tied to a dream that disappeared without warning. That kind of emotional collapse is rarely visible to the public. Fans remember the kiss. Few realize what came after. Her story became even more complicated during the controversy surrounding Michael in 1993. While defending his character in several interviews, Tatiana also claimed they had shared an 18-month romantic relationship. Later, she admitted those statements were not entirely accurate. That confession damaged her credibility, but throughout the years she remained consistent in one belief. She never stopped defending Michael as a person, even while acknowledging mistakes in the way she had told her own story. In 2004, she published her memoir, The Way He Made Me Feel, sharing her experiences in Hollywood, her time with Michael, and the events surrounding the famous kiss. A second book followed in 2011, showing a more reflective version of herself after years of processing the pain. Shortly after Michael's death in 2009, she also reconciled with Frank Dilio before his passing in 2011. It couldn't erase the past, but it finally closed a chapter that had remained open for more than 20 years. Tatiana attended Michael Jackson's funeral after receiving an invitation from Katherine Jackson, who had stayed in touch through the years. That invitation carried deep meaning. It quietly recognized that Tatiana had been an important part of Michael's life during one unforgettable chapter, even if the ending had never been fully understood. She continued acting in projects like The Perfect Model, Identity Crisis, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and also appeared in the opening credits of A Different World. Her career never reached the heights many expected, but she never stopped working or telling her side of the story. Looking back today, Tatiana Thumbtzen's story isn't simply about one famous kiss. It's about what happens when ordinary people are suddenly pulled into extraordinary fame, only to find themselves left behind without answers. Whether every memory unfolded exactly as she remembered has been debated for years. But one thing is undeniable. That moment on the Madison Square Garden stage changed the course of her life forever. She spent decades trying to understand why a single decision cost her so much. Through interviews, books, and countless conversations, she continued returning to one simple message. She was there. It mattered. And she believed the world deserved to hear what really happened after the kiss.